Podcast where it's like off the cuff. Hello and welcome to the Colts Cover-2 Podcast. I am Joel A. Erickson. I am joined for the last time for the foreseeable future by Indy Star Colts editor Nat Newell. We have a new person coming on the beat very soon. He'll be on these podcasts, and Nat won't have to stay up late when we're on the West Coast.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I'm going to miss it. I will miss it. I'm not going to say I miss staying up late. I'm sure you're looking forward to getting someone else in here who's not going to beat you at your own game in the First Impressions podcast. But I do want to say sort of an unofficial, unsung hero goes to Joel, because when Nate decided to take the job with The Athletic, we knew we were going to have one person. And I'm thinking, well, the Colts aren't going to be any good, so it won't be that big of a deal. And then what do we have? They're the best team in the NFL. And Joel's been working like a dog for 8 weeks now. So glad to have someone else in place here to help him out. But you've done a great job. We certainly appreciate it. Not the easiest situation to deal with. But, covering a good football team is better than covering a bad football team. But we do appreciate everything, and I do mean everything that you've done for the first half of the season.
Today's game is kind of like an encapsulation of that. Like it's more fun to cover a good team. People are happier, and you can write more stuff. But like today, I could still be writing if I wanted to. Like I wrote 4 stories that are posted already, and by the time most of you hear this, the 5th one will be posted. And I had 3 more I could have done, depending on which way you wanted to take it. This Colts team is the best in the NFL. Like right now,
Yep.
it's the best offense in the NFL. We'll get to the defense and some of the issues that it has, but they just keep steamrolling people.
Yeah, I've said in this podcast several times, hey, we're not saying they're going to go 15-2. I'm beginning to wonder if they're going to go 15-2. I mean, I'm not going to predict that because that's only one more loss the rest of the season. But they look, and the schedule gets tougher. But man, do they look good? And like at the end of this game got a little rough. As you said, we'll talk about the defense. But in the NFL, you don't beat teams by 2 touchdowns every game like they have been doing. That just doesn't generally happen. So I really do believe that there is something. They've got a great combination here, and I guess there's some people out there who still sort of doubt the Colts, but I don't know why you would at this point.
I think at this point it's just, and we fall susceptible to this too. I try not to, but I think some of it is just I thought one thing about this Colts team before the season started, and I can't change my opinion based on what I've seen. It's the same reason that like Illinois was still ranked after Indiana beat them by 740 points in that game. Like it's just based off of what people thought beforehand and an inability to change what they thought. But if you like, we're at the point now where like they're 6-1, and if you can't change what you're gonna think, you're crazy.
Yeah, I've always tried to live my life. I'm going to totally blank on who said it, but the economist who said, I change my mind whenever I get new information. And we've gotten new information. You change your mind. I did not think Daniel Jones was going to be any good. I was wrong. I have zero issue saying that, and I'd be foolish to say anything else based on what he has done so far. I mean, you just can't be more obvious about it. So, and hey, it's great for him, great for us. So who cares that I was wrong at the beginning of the year?
I don't care about we joke about this. You and I joke about this all the time. Every year you make me do predictions, and every year I whine about it. And people like predictions, and I've been wrong every year since 2020, and I'm already wrong this year. I predicted 7 wins. They're going to have that probably next week.
I predicted 5 wins. How many do they have right now?
But I actually don't. I know why we do those. I know people love predictions. They love to hear what you think a team's going to be. I don't actually like that way of looking at football because we don't know anything. Like every season we find out that there's 3 teams that are awesome that we didn't know were going to be good, and there's 3 teams that we thought were going to be good that are bad. And I kind of like to let it play out But that's the nature of the beast. Letting it play out right now as the Colts at 6-1. We'll jump into the categories. We'll start, as we always do, with hero of the game. We're supposed to start with the villain of the game when they lose, but they don't lose.
There's plenty of choices here. I'm going to pick Shane Steichen since I don't think I picked him yet this year. You add in the fact that he was emotional after the game, like you said. This game meant a little more because he had been the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. Knew a lot of people here. Sort of a rare look, sort of in behind the curtain for Shane Steichen that he normally gives publicly. But also, look at all the things he did today. I mean, you look at the big picture. Obviously, the team's been great. But, and we can get into more in depth if we're going to do some of these for the categories. But the fourth down decisions were great. I'm trying to think of what else off the top of my head. I mean, even the J.J. Watt was criticizing him somewhat for slow playing it at the end of the first half there. But it was like 3rd and 4, and they're up 20-3 at that point. And so why, if you don't make the third down, then you're giving the Chargers time to drive back down the field. We can argue about whether he should have taken one shot with the 10 seconds left, but I didn't understand. I mean, to me, he made he's made all the right plays. Again, if it was a tie game, if you were behind, I think you go for it. You speed up there and you want to get the third down. And if you don't get it, then it's not as big a deal because of where you are at score wise, but he just really has seemed to. I mean, he's not perfect. The field goal in the Denver game is still baffling, but I mean, he's just been great this season, and he was great today with a lot of decisions he made.
Yeah, the other thing is just that like his reads on opposing defenses have just been immaculate so far. And what I mean by that is, like, if you looked at the stats coming into this game, you would have said that you're going to run the ball. Like, this is a Chargers team that was ranked like 28th in the NFL in yards per carry allowed, and they were in the top 5 in basically every major passing category. And they kind of ran the ball a little more at the beginning of the game, but he pretty much still just threw to score and ran to win.
Yeah, just picked them apart.
Just destroyed them. Like, this was a team that was giving up 177.5 yards per game, passing wise. Daniel Jones had 288,
and got sacked once.
Like, his reads on how to attack defenses this year have been incredible. They probably have always been this way, if we're being honest, and they didn't have the quarterback to attack it. But man, like, 3rd and 17, they drop back and throw it, and they get Alec Pierce open for 48 yards. Like, they're just the way they're playing offense right now is incredible. That's why you brought Shane Steichen in when you hired him. And yeah, it's really hard to go away from him. I think it plays into the other hero of the game for me. Just going off what I just said, we keep giving this to him over and over again. But Daniel Jones,
yeah,
1 sack, 23 of 34 for 288 yards. He also, on the second drive, had 2 really, really important scrambles, including one where Tanner Bortolini had a terrible snap, and he picked up 3 yards, and it felt like that play should have. That's the kind of play that should, like, be disastrous and cost you terribly. Instead, he gets out of it, gets into a half a yard, and then Jonathan Taylor gets the first down on the next yard. Like, he's just making almost every right decision. Someone was telling me after the game, they're like, there was that one moment where he threw a pass that was almost picked off. And I was like, yeah, that's it. That's literally the only one.
Yeah, he generally has a very short stretch where he makes a couple of bad throws or a bad decision or whatever. But again, I mean, no one's perfect. No quarterback. Peyton Manning didn't make every right decision every time out. Tom Brady didn't. So, he's just been unbelievable, and it's just sort of come out of nowhere, and it's been a lot of fun to watch.
I think it's one of the better stories that we've seen. I was watching, or I saw a clip. I do not watch these shows. You know what? This is I'll make this like a 20-second diatribe. I hate the talk shows, the sports talk shows. But I saw a clip where Dan Orlovsky was saying that that he thought he saw the old Daniel Jones against Arizona last week. Which, no offense to Dan Orlovsky, that's hogwash. Because Daniel Jones made like 4 throws on the last 2 drives there that were incredible. But if you watch the Packers game today, which I didn't watch it, I just know like I was sort of paying attention to it because it was happening at the same time as the Colts game. Jordan Love had a really tough day. Like we said on the podcast last week, that's a very unique defense. It's hard to read. And so that's what you saw. And this week, the Chargers were easy to read, and Daniel Jones was like, oh, well, if you're going to make it easy for me, I'll just make a bunch of throws. I don't know what the defense is that's going to – I don't know what a defense has to do to take Jones out of it, because people keep saying who have they played. Well, the Chargers coming into that game, like I said, were a top 5 passing defense. And the Broncos, who we also played well against, are like a top 2 all-around defense. So,
the schedule thing, I think, look at who the Bills have played. The Bills have played worse teams than the Colts. The only argument being they played the Ravens early in the season with Lamar Jackson, but the Ravens defense is terrible. So, we went through this a couple weeks ago or whatever, but the schedule hasn't been great. You go 6-1 in part because you play teams that you can beat, but they've beaten. Again, we've talked about this. They probably should have lost to the Broncos, but should have beaten the Rams. They've done everything you can. They lead I would assume they're still going to lead the league in scoring margin, which in a lot of ways is a better measure than actual wins. I just don't know anyone. And again, we're probably somewhat reacting to social media, and we shouldn't do that because it's a vocal minority. But the fact that there's even a vocal minority about the Colts not being really good is just speaks to where we're at as a sports world.
Well, and I do think people do watch those talk shows, and I do think some of that is driving some of that discussion. We'll move on to villain of the game. Who is the villain of the game for today?
I had a couple of choices here. I really wanted to go with Jonathan Taylor's cliches. You had one quote from him in one of your stories, and it was almost, it was almost like you got to quote him. And so we put that one in, but it was not a good quote. They talked to him pregame. I swear to God, he said 8 phrases and all 8 of them were cliches. It's just unbelievable. He's a really smart guy, but his cliches are just killing me. But I'm going with the uniforms. The Chargers uniforms were truly awful. They look like, mustard, whatever some people were saying. Highlighters clearly is another choice there. The Savannah Bananas, the baseball team. But those were just atrocious.
What makes it even worse is that it was supposedly like historic Chargers Day.
I didn't understand. When did Dan Fouts wear all yellow? I don't remember Dan Fouts doing that.
You have the powder blues.
Yes.
The Chargers are one of the the NFL teams that have a perfect uniform, and they shouldn't wear anything else. And I don't know why they do. No.
Yep.
It doesn't make any sense.
And and the Colts are the same way in that they have a very traditional, very clean look.
Very clean.
We can discuss whether some people like it or not. That's fine. But they don't ever mess. They've never messed with it. It's always fun to, people like looking at uniforms. Like for the Pacers, we got all the different Pacers. And it's like, hey, let's put a photo gallery of every different uniform the Colts have ever worn, and it's one photo because they've worn the same uniform since they've existed. So, but boy, those uniforms. I wonder if they'll ever wear them again. That would be my question.
They shouldn't. They were awful. I didn't like them at all. Even the numbers were hard to read in the stadium. That doesn't help. My villain of the game, and this is sort of the old Marvel definition here, because I really don't think that there's a lot they can do about it. The Colts corners are just overmatched right now.
Yeah.
It's not, like I said, it's not their fault. Jonathan Edwards is not supposed to be playing 70-odd snaps in the NFL at this point in his career. Mekhi Blackman wasn't supposed to be doing that either. Everybody's hurt. But it's just obvious that if a quarterback has any time at all, they're just going to have a lot of options, and the corners can't really take anything away. So the only reason the Chargers were in the game was because Herbert threw for 420 yards, and it was remarkable how many times he let go and the wide receiver was wide open. I don't know what the short of making a trade or those guys getting healthy, I don't know what they can do, but I feel like I had to go with the obvious one here because it's a weakness that the Colts, they don't really have a lot of options for.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go that route. I thought about it, obviously, because what else could you think about for villain of the game for this one? But like for 3/4, they had a lot of tackles. The corners were all up at the top in tackles, and Herbert's really good, so that's part of it. But by the end of the game, it was like, no, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to make them the villain of the game, but it's 100% a reasonable choice. And I mean, again, but what number were these? None of these guys were considered part of the team until the end of training camp. I mean, how many guys have they lost? So yeah, I mean, again, is it their fault? No, they're going out there and battling, and they make a play every once in a while. But yeah, it's not a pretty sight right now.
Yeah, there's just not a lot they can do. Unsung hero of the game. Who do you have for unsung hero?
Well, there's only one choice here, and in fact, you probably shouldn't even make a choice because it's so obvious. But it's Amir Abdullah. It's the great Amir Abdullah. I had Amir Abdullah on my fantasy team in 2005 when he had been a second-round pick from the Lions and was supposed to be really good, and he was not. And normally, like Jeff Francoeur, I spent $110,000 on him in a fantasy baseball draft. I'm not speaking to Jeff Francoeur until he gives me $100,000 because he gave me a $10,000 season. So normally I get upset when these guys don't deliver like they're supposed to. But I just love the fact that Amir Abdullah has been on, I think he's been retired for 3 years, and he comes out and he's been good. I also love the fact that Steichen won't admit that Amir Abdullah is better than DJ Giddens. You asked him that question the other day, and he wouldn't, he just wouldn't say it. It's like, I mean, I get why he doesn't want to say it, but I mean, Giddens didn't see the field today, so I don't know what else you do. 81-yard kickoff return was great. Again, a fact that you refuse to acknowledge as he led the Colts for the second week in a row in yards per rush. We were not going to discuss the fact that it was 1 rush last week and 2 this week. But you clearly can't see that as great as Jonathan Taylor is, Amir Abdullah is better and should be playing ahead of Taylor.
I thought I would get credit for making Amir Abdullah one of the 10 thoughts.
You do.
Not enough credit, though. My unsung hero is DeForest Buckner. I just don't think – I think this could go really for his whole career. I don't think the entire NFL appreciates how good DeForest Buckner has been. It's really the Colts' fault. It's the Colts' fault that they're like that. This season, though, it's the rest of the defense's fault, or specifically the rest of the defensive line's fault that he's not being talked about more. Today, he was getting – at one point he got triple teamed. He was joking after the game with me that because on the Nick Cross pick, they doubled him with the right guard and the center, and he tried to spin away from the center at the last second, and the left guard came over and kind of pancaked him because he wasn't looking. And he was saying, that the thing that sucks about that is Nick Cross made that pick, so I'm going to have to watch it 100 times this week. But the thing is, I don't really think of that as Buckner getting, whipped. He's taking on 3 offensive linemen, one he doesn't know is coming. And that's kind of an encapsulation of what his season has been. Other teams just spend all of their time trying to get DeForest Buckner in 2 spots, and he just keeps coming. They were so tired on the last drive that Latu had to go get oxygen at one point. Buckner was out there the whole time, got a sack early in the drive. The rest of the defense wasted that one. And then when they needed it, he got another sack. And he said after the game, we were asking him about double teams, and he was like, well, I just have to wait till I get my one-on-ones and win them like I won them today. I went back and watched the last sack. That was not a one-on-one. It was a double team. He swam over the center and then swam over the guard and hit Justin Herbert for a 12-yard loss. He's so good, and it's the rest of the defensive line should be able to take advantage, and it's kind of disappointing that they can't.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, he's the reason that you could have any hope for the a consistent pass rush, which I'm sure we'll get to later in the podcast here. But just because he does absorb extra players, and that means if someone can just get a little bit, if someone comes in with a little bit of extra skill, then you think it's going to make it easier for him, and then it would make it easier for Buckner. But yeah, we haven't seen that yet. We can dig deeper. I don't want to take away from Buckner's well-deserved unsung hero of the game by talking about the rest of the pass rush being not good. But yeah, an easy choice or an excellent choice here for unsung hero of the game.
Unsung villain of the game. Who do you have for unsung villain?
And I'm going to go off script here big time and say Chris Ballard, because I just don't believe he's going to make any deals at the trade deadline that they need to do. I'll be happy to be wrong, but I also won't be on the podcast, so I can't apologize if I'm wrong. So, are we going to see a more aggressive Chris Ballard like we did in the offseason? He deserves a full credit there. He deserves credit for the team he's put together here too, obviously. But do I think he's going to trade a first-round pick for a pass rusher that they need, or the corner that they need? I don't think he's going to do that. He did do it for Buckner. So again, he can prove me wrong. I have no issues being wrong, but I just don't have a lot of faith that he's going to make the aggressive move that the Colts need to make. And again, the other thing is, he loves his draft picks, but you look at the Rams. They traded away all their draft picks, and they're still fine. Again, you got to get lucky. You got to make good picks, all that stuff. It's not like you're good because you give away draft picks. But it's not. You can do that and take advantage of it, and still come out on top if you're a well-run franchise. So I would love to see them do something. They need to do something. I'm not sure that they will.
I would like to give unsung villain to SoFi Stadium, but that's my own personal issue with SoFi Stadium, so I'm not going to. Unsung villain for me, I think, is gonna go to. I don't really want to do this because it's his first game coming back off of an Achilles, but I think Kenny Moore. He had he had a team high 8 tackles, and I thought he was very physical, and it was big that he played out there. He's just not quite there from a coverage standpoint. He gave up some stuff. Maybe next week, maybe the next couple of weeks, he starts to play a little better reacting in coverage. Just I don't know. They need him to be better than he was. They need him to be a little better in coverage than he was today. It's probably just him coming off the Achilles.
It's hard to find villains in a game like this, other than we've talked about the pass rush, we talked about the corners. There's some obvious stuff, but who wants to go with the obvious stuff here? But again, I would agree that the corners really sort of waned as the game went on, and Moore was part of that.
Number of the day.
I'm going to go. I can go 2 different ways here. I guess I would lean towards 314, which is the number of pounds Grover Stewart weighs. If you don't want to use that somewhere later, then I got another number. But largest player, heaviest player to ever intercept a pass for the Colts. He's listed at 314. I think you said he admitted in your story he admits to 330, and just a spectacular play.
Yeah, my only regret with that play, and this is stomping another category, but I'll just do it again, is that there were too many people around him, and we didn't get to see him run with the football.
Yes. Well, and that makes up for Jonathan Taylor is getting to read Grover Stewart quotes and saying that he would have taken it to the crib if he could have. And we all have to. And who doesn't want to see that? I mean, who wouldn't want to see 330-pound Grover Stewart going 40 whatever yards on an interception return?
My number of the day is going to be 15, because I think it's a stat that I think a lot of Colts fans would believe isn't true. That's the number of quarterback hits. They hit Herbert 15 times. I'm having this issue with the pass rush today because they didn't have enough. They didn't do enough, but also Herbert spent a lot of time running around and creating stuff and making plays. Now, I will say that there's other teams that have sacked him 5 times. 2 teams have sacked him 5 times. The pass rush is kind of a weird thing to try to figure out right now, because I don't feel like there's enough initial pressure, but they did move him a lot. And that number of quarterback hits is pretty high for a single game. I think it's the single highest I think it's the highest for any team in a Colts game so far, which makes sense because the Colts don't give up quarterback hits. But
Yeah, I was going to get into this later on, but it is. I mean, I wonder if we're almost evaluating things incorrectly in terms of maybe. I mean, this is a story you wrote that we will post in the morning, but is this just the way you got to do it? I mean, and you got to hope for the best, and a little bit with the corners. Obviously, that hurts having the corners injured. But I also just wonder if you're going to play Justin Herbert, and you're going to. I mean, you're just going to have. They're going to move. He's going to move the ball. He's going to score points, and you got to kind of look past that and look at the stuff because the pass rush did get to him. I mean, there were multiple times that he missed throws because of the pass rush.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know. It's an interesting topic that we can talk about more when we get later in the podcast there.
Yep, that moves us into the sort of the fun categories. Do you have a game day observation? You already used the obvious one.
Yeah, I used the uniforms. I originally had that here, and then I also used the other one that I wrote down, which is just being impressed with how Shane Steichen follows the math of the game. Another thing I didn't mention earlier, he didn't chase points. They missed Badgley missed the extra point in the first half. And then the next time they scored, they were kicking extra points. You don't chase points until the fourth quarter. Although he did do it in the third quarter, and they scored, so it didn't matter. But another, the fourth downs. Because I also for unsung hero, I also had that the Colts are working very hard on eliminating punting from football on both sides of the ball. The offense never punts, and the defense doesn't make the other team punt. So, and while I love Rigo Sanchez and he's really good at it, punting's not the most exciting part of the game. So, but I because of respect for Rigo, I ended up taking that out. But that would be my observation is that Shane Steichen it seems to do a lot of the things right when it comes to the math, and I always like to see that.
I will not hear this punt slander. The punt is more exciting than people believe it is. As the number one defender of Rigoberto Sanchez the Witch, I will not hear this punt slander. My game day observation is, so we were wondering, they had all these Chargers guys there. Like lots and lots of guys that you had on your fantasy team. Did you ever have Malcolm Floyd?
I did not. I did not have Malcolm Floyd.
Like they're guys like Malcolm Floyd. They had so many former Chargers there that they had to put it on two screens on the big SoFi screens. And we noticed, as most Colts fans, as most listeners of this podcast might remember, that Joel favorite Uncle Phil Rivers was not there. Huh. And we wondered why, because Antonio Gates was getting his Hall of Fame ring. And then I realized it. I just realized it when we started this podcast. Uncle Phil Rivers is in his high school football season.
That's true. They mentioned that on the broadcast. They said that he's running the same offense. I think the Colts do same verbiage and everything. So They did mention that on the. You think he could have come over for Sunday? They're probably not doing much.
He has to prepare for. Who do they have next? That's the question. He has to prepare for whoever they have next. They should be getting close to the playoffs, I would think.
I think they might even said they were in the playoffs but Indiana starts playoffs next week. So, but
they're quite good. So like I am interested. I don't know. He might be getting geared up for something important. According to this website I just found, Max Preps, they are 8-0.
So probably not in the playoffs yet, but
they are 8-0 and they play Orange Beach next week.
I do not know anything about Orange Beach, Alabama football. You might, you'd have to know more than me.
They're going to win that game, I think. So I think that's what he was doing. I think he was watching. He might have clicked on the game on TV and then he went right back to watching film. Him and Shane Steichen talk frequently.
That's what they mentioned that on the broadcast as well. Yeah. They're tight from their time in San Diego, which is why this was an important game to Steichen because of his time here. Are you using Tyler Warren at any point in the rest of the podcast?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll save my other comment about that. I was going to bring up something else, but I can tell you that you were talking about predictions earlier. The first ever Greenville, South Carolina NCAA tournament region, first and second round games. It was the Kent State team with Antonio Gates on it. And I had talked to coaches a coach who had played them that year, and we gave them anonymity and said, break down what they're going to see. and the coach was just so impressed with that team. So I picked them to go to the Sweet 16. I can't remember what seed they were, but they were way down. And they, of course, went to the Sweet 16. So I looked like a genius, Antonio Gates being a heck of a basketball player.
That brings us to 3 football things that gave me joy. 3 football things that gave me joy. One of these we've already done, but I have to do it again. Grover Stewart's interception.
Yeah.
Grover Stewart is the happiest man in the world. He's the happiest man in football. He never has a bad day. And also, if you go back and watch, we were laughing in the press box about the way he caught the interception. Because if you go back and watch it, when he realizes the ball is in the air, he sticks his hands out like wide. Like not like where you catch a football, like wide, like he's catching a baby or something or a person. And then he barely gets it. It almost goes through his arms. It's fantastic. Just
he's also wearing mittens, so he deserves a little credit for that too, or whatever he was wearing on his hands.
Yeah. So that's that was an obvious one. There's just no way around. There's no way around that one. Number 2 football thing that gave me joy. No flags on an 81-yard kickoff return by Amir Abdullah. They've brought the kickoff return back. I know there's a lot of people who do not like the new rule. I think they're all wrong. It's dumb to be upset about it because the kickoff now is something we get to watch as opposed to just a touchback. And
I like the kickoff too. It's also, I give the NFL credit. 2 years ago or whenever they started it, you went out to the 30, and for whatever reason, people just kicked it and said take the ball at the 30. They made it to 35 this year, and now everybody kicks to the run. So good, a reflection of the fact that a small change, what seems like a small change can have a serious impact on something. So the NFL deserves credit for how they've handled that.
The reason is the average return got them to the 29. That's why everybody was kicking it. That's why everybody was just doing the touchback because they were like, well, if it's going to be a return to the 29 anyway,
then why mess with it?
Why worry about a touchdown when we can just get it to the 30? And,
And now they did the 35 and it's worked. So good for the NFL.
That makes sense to me. And then the number 3 football thing that gave me joy is going to be whatever Jonathan Taylor did on the way into the end zone.
We have a chat going on, and it was mentioned in the chat that it looked like he might have hurt himself, and that's the first thing that came to mind because he did some kind of little stutter step walk, and your first thought is, oh, he's pulled his hamstring,
right?
And now we're gonna see, it's probably they got Amir Abdullah, so if Taylor goes out, does he get his job back? That's a real question.
So that's the number 3 football thing that gave me joy. We'll now move on to, again, there are whole categories to this First Impressions podcast that just aren't being used because the Colts don't lose. And so we start with too much credit and too little credit. Who is getting too much credit for today's win?
This is where I got the pass rush. Again, I mean, we've talked about, I don't think on this podcast it's getting too much credit, but there were the 15 quarterback hits, which is a lot. They had some sacks. So again, I just don't know, is this just where they're going to be at? I mean, you've seen other teams that were serious competitors or, contenders go out and really load up on the pass rush. And is that just because that's the only way to do it in today's NFL? Colts aren't there. And again, like, I don't want to, I'll get to this in the next one, but I'm just real curious as we go along here, is the pass rush, the Colts numbers, their rankings are average or better. So is this us just not recognizing where the pass rush is versus, where football is? It just seems like, but it sure seemed like 15. It was not a 15 quarterback hit day to me, what I watched. Although there were times that they made a difference, but it just didn't seem like the numbers did not reflect what I watched, and they really haven't all year.
Yeah, there's a disconnect there for me. I think there's a disconnect there for a lot of people. I think one other piece, I looked this up on the way out of the stadium because I had to walk like 25 minutes to my car. Again, I get to go to the games. I shouldn't complain about that, but I cannot stress to you how much I don't like SoFi. It's like the whole experience is like, it's not Jacksonville. It's not quite like Jacksonville, but it's not great. Anyway, the Where was I? This is what happens on the late night ones. I lose my spot.
The pass rush and whether.
Oh, the pass rush. I just don't know. I don't know how to quantify it because they were 13th in pressure rate according to the NFL's next gen stats. That'll probably go up, right?
I would think so. Although he threw a lot of passes. Herbert threw a lot of passes today.
I mean, if they have 15 quarterback hits and he threw 57 passes, like, yeah, because you don't get a pressure on it. If you get a pressure on every quarterback hit, you get a lot of pressures on plays where he doesn't get hit. So, like, I would think it's going to go up. I don't know how to square that. I don't know how to square what we're seeing from the Colts pass rush right now with the numbers that we're getting. But I did notice that the Green Bay Packers sacked Jacoby Brissett 6 times today. Now, the Green Bay Packers have one Micah Parsons, and he did have 3 sacks today. But, the Colts had trouble sacking Jacoby Brissett last week. The Green Bay Packers didn't. So maybe that's the difference. Maybe that's the difference between a really good an elite pass rush and one that's just kind of getting it done whenever it can. My too much credit here, and this one's going to sound terrible, but I think it's valid. Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is great. He's the best back in the NFL. I believe he leads the NFL in rushing. I didn't see what Bijan Robinson did tonight. He has 3 touchdowns. He's done that 3 times this season. He had 94 yards. I think he's at 697 for the season. He's been fantastic. But in a lot of post-game press conferences and a lot of discussions I've seen about the Colts, everyone's like, well, Jonathan Taylor is driving the bus and Daniel Jones is playing off of that. It's not what's happening. Just isn't. There was a point in this game when I thought this is going to be the Jonathan Taylor takes over game, and they didn't end up having to do that. He's still great. Like I said, he's get 94 yards, but this is not the 2021 offense. There are people who are talking about it like it's the 2021 offense, and it's just Jonathan Taylor pulling everybody around. This is not that. The way Daniel Jones is playing is not the way Carson Wentz played. I mean, I think most Colts fans know that. But for some reason, the people who talk about this nationally do not seem to understand that. Maybe at some point they will get through their heads. But yeah, this is a full team effort in terms of what they're doing offensively.
Well, the one thing I'll give myself credit for, probably too much credit for, appropriate for the category, is that I said at the beginning of the year it seemed like they had weapons on offense if they had the right quarterback, and they do. I mean, it seems like a really hard team to defend because not only do they have weapons, but I mean Taylor is clearly might be the best running back in the NFL right now. But I don't think you would say any of the receivers individually are. But they're all really good. I guess Warren might be the best tight end, but in the league. But I mean, But if you're going to take Warren out, then Michael Pittman is perfectly happy to score more touchdowns than he ever has before, and then do everything he does quietly every week. Josh Downs doesn't play today, and you don't even think about it. At least I didn't think about it. Probably because he's so small. You don't out there anyway. But they just got a lot of weapons, and it makes it. I mean, you're always going to use Taylor, but I think because there's more options for him because of the guys he's got around him. There's more options for them because they have Taylor too. Obviously, I mean, it all works together. But it is a really good just collection of offensive talent for this Colts team. Which, and again, I called Chris Ballard the unsung villain, but he deserves a lot of credit for putting this unit together.
Too little credit. Who's getting too little credit for today's win?
This is sort of goes hand in hand. I'm going to say the defense, and it sort of goes with what you wrote about that hasn't posted yet, but will. And you just got to do good enough to win. I mean, especially with this offense. They played really well early, I thought. I mean, that was 23-3 going into the halftime. So they played a really good half. They then played a bad second half, but they made enough plays. Zaire Franklin saved the touchdown with playing pass defense. The Chargers did not run the ball
at all. Yeah,
Vidal. I don't know how he pronounces his name. He's on my daughter's fantasy team. He was really great last week, and he didn't do. I mean, he didn't do much this week. So again, I just think we need to keep an eye on what is a good defense. What is good defense? Certainly, you'd love to have somebody come out and shut everyone down. but they made enough plays to make it work. And it really, it could have been close, but it wasn't close. And it wasn't close because the defense did just exactly what it needed tonight.
Yeah, their longest rush by a running back was 5 yards. That's bad. And their longest rush of any kind was 11 yards by Herbert. So they were very good against the run. That helped them out considerably in terms of how the rest of the game went. Too little credit for me is going to go to Alec Pierce. I think that his season, I'm going to write about this soon. Maybe by the time I land tomorrow, hopefully by the time I land tomorrow. But he is playing like the type of receiver that people said he couldn't be. Like we think of him as a deep threat. He's averaging almost 20 yards per catch right now. But also he's making a ton of plays on crossers. He's making a ton of plays over the middle of the field. You know, when they had a chance to put the game away and finally keep just Justin Herbert on the sideline where he couldn't do anything anymore today, they had a 3rd and 10, and Daniel Jones threw it to Alec Pierce in a one-on-one situation, manned up, and he made the catch. He's really doing, like, you talk about, like we talk a lot about, like, which Colts receiver can do everything for you, and they're not necessarily playing him like this. They're not like throwing in the ball more than anybody else because they have other targets. But what's the thing Alec Pierce isn't doing for the Colts right now? It's just volume. He's doing all the rest of it.
Yeah, I've got Alex Pierce for a later category, so I got a question for you about that. But yeah, he's been great. And again, you wonder if he didn't have the talent around him, would he be getting more volume and would he be producing in it? That's really the only question left for Alec Pierce. And he's a excellent player now without that. So it's not like, that's so even though that's a question, we would love to find out. I wouldn't be afraid of finding out, basically.
He missed 2 games with the concussion, and I think the number I found earlier is that Tyler Warren leads the team in receiving yards with 439. But as far as receivers go, with 2 games missed, Pierce is only 34 yards behind Michael Pittman Jr.
And what's the average per catch he's doing? Is he still doing
19.8? He's right on the edge of that 20.
And which no one does anymore. I mean, so that's really, when you see outliers like that, and then the fact that he probably could bring it down because if they used him more doing the things that he's shown he can do, it would probably be good for him to be at 17 and a half or whatever ridiculous number he still put up if they used him as a more fully in the offense.
I think one of the things that sticks out to me with him is that, like, yes, we're talking about all the other stuff he can do, but I don't think people appreciate how good a deep threat he is. Every other team knows that Alec Pierce is going to run deep, and he gets free for like 140-plus yard catch a game.
And the only other person who's done that in any recently is Deshaun Jackson. Did it consistently.
It's remarkable.
He was kind of a one-trick pony. He was, if you're going to pick one trick, it's run long and catch really long touchdown passes. That's a good trick to pick. But and he's a totally different physically than Pierce. So it's just fascinating to me that Pierce is such an outlier in different ways.
One to throw away and one to go on. We always start these last 2 categories with one to throw away. What is your one thing that people are talking about right now that we can throw away for the rest of the season?
I don't know if people are talking about this right now, but this dovetails nicely with what you said, which is we kind of figured that Alex Pierce wasn't coming back as a free agent next year, that Mitchell, AD Mitchell was brought in, not to replace him, but because you have to move guys in and out because of the salary cap. I think you throw away the idea that you can let Pierce leave. I mean, what are you? You look at, obviously they're 6-1, but looking ahead, what do you think they're going to do with Pierce as a free agent?
Yeah, it really seems like the way this season is going, they're going to get to a spot where they have to keep him. Like coming into the season, you would have said, okay, they're high on AD Mitchell. If he looks decent, you're going to. I shouldn't say you're going to. Chris Ballard. Like my estimation of Chris Ballard has generally been that he doesn't want to pay wide receivers. I think like he's paying Pittman. I don't really think he wants to pay more than one wide receiver. But AD Mitchell continues to be spotty. I don't know if anybody noticed this, but on his one catch today, he should have stayed in bounds, and he didn't. He ran out of bounds when they needed to run clock. Like, it's an 8-yard catch. It seems like nothing, but like you supposed to like the reason he was benched is that he doesn't make the right play. Just do it. And going forward, like, does Shane Steichen trust him? I haven't seen anything to suggest that that's the case.
Yeah. There's no reason for Shane Steichen to trust him, and Shane has not exactly indicated that he trusts him in any way.
And the other thing is that, like, Chris Ballard has done a good job of picking wide receivers in the second round. And I think that the thinking would be, if we let Alec Pierce go, we can draft another receiver. But the lesson of Alec Pierce and really of Michael Pittman and really of A.D. Mitchell is that if you draft a player, they are not going to be good, like great right away. And so, I think he's playing into a spot where, like, you don't want to imagine this offense without the guy that everyone has to worry about deep. You don't want to.
He's not. You have to pay him. I don't think we'll see what the rest of the season. Right now, you wouldn't have to pay him what you're paying Pittman, but you also got to bring Jones back on a fairly hefty deal. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle some things in the offseason.
Yeah, I think some of it is probably going to be letting some defensive ends shuffle off this salary cap and moving on. That's my guess. But
I know Ballard wants 14 defensive ends, and that's on his roster, so that's going to be tough.
My one to throw away is just this schedule thing. It's gone.
Yeah.
Can we stop talking? You already mentioned that the Bills haven't played anybody. Like, they've played good defenses, especially the offensive side of this. They've played really good defenses. The Broncos are great defensively. Now, they weren't great today. Their numbers are going to go down because the Giants scored 33 points on them. But the Broncos were coming into today were like second in the league in yards, first in the league in yards per play. Like, that's a good defense. The Rams are a good defense. They absolutely obliterated Jacksonville in London today. And then the Chargers coming in were a good defense, especially against the pass.
Arizona, as we mentioned, is a better defense than they get credit for.
Arizona, go look at the Packers' numbers. They had to work for their 27 points today. That is a defense that makes you work. Now, they're losing. Yes, I know they're 2-5, but that is a better defense than people give it credit for. It's just, this is where we started the podcast. It's a good offense. It's a great offense. Like, this is a great offense. They're averaging like 34 points a game or something. Like, winning wise, some of the records are bad of the teams they've beaten. But if you look at the defenses they played, like, every time we say, oh, you know what, this is going to be a real test. We're going to really find out about the Colts offense. What happens? They go for 400
yards.
The
test.
They go for 400 yards and 30 points.
And they say, oh, no, it's the next one. It's the next game.
Yeah.
Not this week. They're playing the Titans next. But you know what I mean.
Yeah. But so what's, there's nothing left. Like, if they start having a string of even if they have one bad game, if they have a string of bad games, then we can finally talk about it again. But from here on out, we need to talk about the Colts offense as if it's one of the NFL's best offenses. And that goes for everyone. Again, Dan Orlovsky he looked like the old Daniel Jones against the Cardinals. He did not.
And I looked this up last week. I didn't follow up again, but he far and away the best 5-game stretch. The first 5 games of the season were far and away the best 5-game stretch of his career. He'd had one other stretch that was like this. So to say that it's the old Daniel Jones, I mean, he'd have to be like 20% worse, 25% worse to be the old Daniel Jones. So it's crazy just how much better he's been. But yeah, I mean, I looked at the numbers. I mean, if you really wanted to squint a lot, whenever we talked about this 2 weeks ago, you could find you could say, okay, maybe they're just really good instead of great. But I don't even know if we can say that anymore.
I had somebody ask me, and I thought this was a legitimate question. I still think it's a legitimate question. They were just looking at his yards per attempt numbers, and they said it started out really high. It had been going down. And I thought, you know what? I'm not really worried about it right now because they're scoring 30 points a game, but that's something to keep an eye on. The Chargers were, I believe, 6th in the NFL, or 4th. They were 4th in the NFL in yards per dropback. Daniel Jones today, 8.5 yards per attempt.
Yeah, which is excellent.
That brings us to one to go on. This is the end of the podcast. The last thing that we want to leave you with as you're listening to it. What is your one to go on from today's game?
My one to go on is that Jonathan Taylor is a different back in short yardage and red zone. In his career, he had been, I think, below average is fair in both those situations. Which again, he's a great running back. I don't care that he's below average in short yardage and the red zone when you're going to rush for what he does when he's at his best. But now all of a sudden he's really good in those situations, or at least good in those situations too. And at this point, I think you got to say that something's changed, and it's got to be Shane Steichen, I would think. But now this didn't happen last year. Yeah, they've done something that makes Taylor better in the short yardage situations and in the red zone. They've been unbelievable in the red zone since they struggled early in the year. It's a 13 in a row, something like that.
The only reason that they have one miss in the red zone today, and the only reason is because they got to the red zone with like 20 seconds before the half and kicked that field goal.
And kicked the field goal. So
that's the only reason they
scored. So, yeah. So I think Jonathan. Again, people have talked about him being a more well-rounded back. We kind of touched on this in our chat early day. Pittman's one touchdown away from his career high. That was sort of always the knock on him, was that he wasn't a guy who scored touchdowns. There's guys doing things that they hadn't done before, and you got to obviously give credit to the players for doing it, but you got to give credit for how Steichen is getting it out of them.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor. One of the other things I thought about today, I'd have to go back and look at it, the yards. But if I remember right, in 2021, Taylor started out kind of normally, and then went nuclear about mid-season.
Yeah, I remember that rings a bell for me too. Although again, I'd have to check it to know for sure.
This one just feels like he's been great just right from the jump.
Yep.
I don't know that means he beats those numbers, because this offense doesn't have to do the thing that they had to do in the second half where they were like, we don't have a quarterback, we're just going to run. But he's been, it's like 2021 Jonathan Taylor, but right from the start of the season.
And probably a better all around player. Now he might have been
He's got 23 catches. He has 23 catches right now.
Might have been a better breakaway threat in 2021, which is not something which is important. But if you make a list of what you want out of your running back, I think he's been better in most of them this year than the year he was the best running back in the NFL.
His previous career high in catches was 40. He has 23 through 7 games.
And you ruined him because you wrote that story about how great he was catching passes, and then he never caught another pass again until this year. Little known fact, he hadn't caught a single pass in like 3 years.
So what you're saying is when our new writer gets on, he's the one who has to write about how Jonathan Taylor's going to.
Well, you did write. You wrote again about his pass catching, and then I believe he dropped the first pass he had thrown to him after that story ran, but he's been fine since then. So I think you're off the hook on that one.
My one to go on is that defenses can't completely take away Tyler Warren. It just won't happen. I really thought that this might be the game, just based on the numbers and based on who was on the other side of the football. This Chargers defense came in giving up they were allowing 32 yards per game to tight ends. I don't have their schedule offhand. They might not have played a great one, but they have Derwin James. Derwin James is incredible. He plays strong safety. A lot of times today, when they were in man, it was James lined up over Warren, especially in the red zone. And, he didn't have like a super crazy game. He didn't have 7 or 8 catches or anything like that. He had 4 catches for 69 yards and a touchdown. He had 2 explosive plays, 2 29-yard catches, and a touchdown. If a team was going to take him away, it would have been this one or last week's with Budda Baker, and neither team has been able to do it. He's probably the all-pro tight end right now. He's currently, as we speak, I think like 15 in the NFL in yards receiving for the season.
You're going to make him all-pro even though he was the 3rd best tight end on the field today? Gadsden goes nuts, and then Antonio Gates is there too. So 3rd best tight end on the field, and you're going to put him on the all-pro team.
In Tyler Warren's defense, Gadsden did not have to go against Derwin James.
But he had 3 times as many yards.
He's 15th. He's 15th in the NFL in receiving yards with 439, and that puts him above the next highest tight end by Trey McBride's having a good season for Arizona, but I think he's the all-pro tight end.
Especially how many He's certainly a Pro Bowl tight end right now. And then, just a matter of whether he or how the rest of the season goes. And to be a all-pro tight end as a rookie is just insane. I mean, I've been clear about this. I was not anti-Tyler Warren. I was simply anti-rookie tight end. And he, as you noted, he's blown all that up.
His only competition statistically right now for all-pro tight end is McBride, who does have a significant edge in catches. He has 47, and Warren has 33. But I actually think that's in favor of Warren, because McBride is averaging 9 yards per catch. Warren is averaging 13.3.
I've never understood the official NFL statistics ranks receivers by catches, and I'm like, the goal is not to catch the ball. The goal is to gain yards, and just
Right.
You don't judge running backs by carries. You judge them by yards. I've never understood that fascination, but it's been an incredible rookie season for him. One of the many things I've gotten wrong, and it's probably good that even though I once again won this podcast, it's probably appropriate for me to bow out now before I get anything else wrong.
To illustrate your point about catches, Jake Ferguson of the Cowboys has 51 catches. That's the most of any tight end in the NFL right now. He only has 334 yards. He's averaging 6.5 yards per catch.
That's crazy. He's got 6 touchdowns, though, doesn't he?
He does have 6 touchdowns, but
so the end zone keeps getting his way.
Tyler Warren is literally averaging twice as many yards every time he catches the football.
Not bad for the third best tight end on the field today. Well, like I say, we will have a new, or as Joel noted, we will have a new podcast partner for him. We will announce it tomorrow. I don't think it's been announced yet. I probably should know that. But please like and subscribe to the podcast. Joel once again forgot that. I'll have to send him texts before every podcast to make sure that we get that. Like and subscribe. Our YouTube site continues to grow, so we really appreciate all the support, all the people who are going to be watching this. And go to IndyStar.com. For everything Joel's writing, even though it'll probably be only 4 stories a day instead of 6 like he's been averaging. So
everyone will find out who the new writer is tomorrow when the Colts talk at 3:20, and my plan is supposedly going to land at 3:15. So the new writer is going to have to be on top of it right away.
Thanks again for joining us.